Michel Barnier, who represented the EU in Brexit negotiations and is a Conservative former finance minister, is thought to be positioning himself for a run at the French presidency. He's caused shock by appearing on television to say he wants to suspend immigration to France for up to 5 years and toughen checks on the EU's external borders. Well, journalist Nabila Ramdani joins me now. Welcome to you, Nabila. What exactly did Barnier say?
Well, good morning. Well, I must admit that I find it incredibly surprising to find Michel Barnier's name associated with potentially sulphurous comments about immigrants. But he made some very strong ones here. He specifically said that he wanted to call for a halt to immigration across Europe for up to 5 years. And it has to be said that this follows Mr. Barnier becoming the face of a tolerant, dignified EU over the past 5 years, especially as he went hand-to-head with some pretty xenophobic Brexiteers, and ones that were often accused of being anti-immigrant racists. And Mr. Barnier has just published a diary about his negotiations with the British Conservative government, and he certainly portrays himself as an old-fashioned statesman who didn't want to react to unpleasant views or language, let alone use it himself. And yet here he's saying that immigration to the EU is not working according to him, and that the bloc's external borders have become a sieve. And he told French journalists specifically that he wants immigration to be suspended for 3 or 5 years, something that would have been music to the ears of the Brexiteers while they were still part of the EU.
Absolutely. I mean, as you say, Brexit in part driven by fears of immigration. As the EU negotiator, if he'd taken this position earlier, do you think Britain might still be in the bloc?
Well, that's the claim. Some people have reacted very strongly, saying that had Britain taken a milder view on immigration during the Brexit debate, then probably Brexit wouldn't have happened. And a lot of people have actually pinpointed immigration as the principal reason why so many British people wanted to leave the EU. So perhaps Mr. Barnier was on the wrong side. He was careful to qualify his comments, saying that he was not talking about students or refugees and that people still needed to be treated with humanity and care. But his main point was that all procedures had to be re-examined. And he also said that Schengen needed to be discussed, that there needed to be controls on borders, and that generally EU controls needed to be a lot more rigorous. And he also shockingly brought up two of the biggest issues of the 21st century, which are immigration and terrorism, and said that there was a strong link between the two. So why was he doing it, and why was he doing it now? The short answer is that Mr. Barnier may be 70, but he's a former French minister who could easily have a run at becoming president of France next year.
And do you think he's likely to do so?
I think, the current incumbent is an independent with a similar kind of profile to Barnier, and that is Emmanuel Macron. He's albeit almost 30 years younger, but having said that, the American president is a lot older than Michel Barnier, so there would be no reason why Mr. Barnier should not have a chance, especially as he fits into the mold of the tall, capable public servant, especially given the high profile created by the Brexit negotiations.
Now, the far-right Marine Le Pen is polling well in France at the moment. Do you think that that's driving right-wing rhetoric from French politicians?
Yes, absolutely. Emmanuel Macron is certainly himself moving to the right as he tries to pick up Rassemblement National votes from Marine Le Pen on the far right, and Macron is likely to go head-to-head with Marine Le Pen, the leader of the far-right party, in the presidential elections next May, and immigration will of course be a huge issue. Now, Michel Barnier, when asked if the comments casts questions over his reputation as a moderate, he denied that he was changing his views, and he simply said that he was trying to reflect what ordinary French people were saying to him, and he wanted to find solutions. And he cited plans already outlined by the EU to strengthen its border agency with the deployment of 10,000 new uniformed guard. But despite such discourse, Barnier's relations with the British are still pretty fraught. And this week, he clashed with the UK government, saying that the British were behaving like buccaneers, failing to protect the Brexit deal following a standoff over fishing in Jersey.
Nabila, finally, who do you think poses the biggest threat to Emmanuel Macron in next year's election?
Well, undoubtedly, it is Marine Le Pen, the leader of the far-right Rassemblement National party. She's the only credible contender, may I say, against Emmanuel Macron. No other candidate or solid candidate has emerged in the forthcoming race for the top job next year. And that's why we're seeing a dramatic shift in Emmanuel Macron's own positioning, veering increasingly to the far right, notably over his position about Muslims in French society. He is making very sulphurous comments about Muslim community. He has just barred one one candidate from his own party to stand for local elections because she was wearing a headscarf on a flyer for the campaign. Now, headscarves are not banned in France, but Emmanuel Macron still deemed that the association was too close with Islam, and he views it as a threat to French society and especially to the secular values of France. We've heard, more policies veering. We've seen more of his policies veering to the right as well, including his so-called separatism law, which pretty much, is aimed at controlling French Muslims and indeed aimed at monitoring them from the way they dress to what they eat to the way they worship, and very specifically presents them as a terrorist threat to the country. And now, that equates to spreading collective guilt, something that you more traditionally hear from the far right and not so much from, you don't expect to hear that kind of discourse from a centrist candidate.
No. Nabila, thank you very much indeed. That's Nabila Ramdani.